very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the evening review. My name is Jabela. Tonight on the platform, we are welcoming back Paulus Vihemba. He is president of the Namibian African Students Association, NASA, which has been agitating for several reforms at the Namibia Student Financial Assistance Fund, NSFAF as we call it. And NSFAF has a policy workshop lined up in the coming days, and NASA will be represented at that conference, and we just want to engage Paulus here as to what they are going to do at that conference where they've been invited. Thank you, sir, for making time. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Maybe we can just start getting into this conversation to refresh the minds of those that might not have heard what you've been agitating about. What reforms do you want at NSFAF?
Yes, good evening, Toivo, and all the Namibians that are watching this. Yes, thank you very much for inviting us today to make our position very clear. Yes, to understand what you are doing, we need to go back to the foundation. You know, we have what we call NSFAF, the Namibian Student Financial Assistance Fund, which is created under the Act of Parliament 26 of 2000, with a mandate which is stipulated in Section 4 of that Act, that a fund is created to provide financial assistance to all students that are studying at the institution of higher learning that are approved by the Minister of Higher Education. So now this fund, in order for it to execute its mandate, the fund in section 18, it gives the board of NSFAF to come up with a policy to outline criteria on how this fund should be given to all qualifying students. And then that will now be stipulated in terms of Section 20 of the Act by the Minister of Higher Education to come with a policy that outlines the procedures and the rationale on how that fund should be given. So currently, NSFAF have a policy called Student Financial Assistance and the Debt Recovery Policy and Procedures, which was adopted in 2019. So now, in 2019 or in 2021, we have this policy that we as student leaders that we have been against, where we said that this policy, it does not it's not consistent with the mandate of the NSFAF Act. Now, why do we say so? It's because we have gone through the Act, the policy itself. If you followed very well, you see that on the 2nd of May, as a union, we launched an initiative where we wanted to look at and review this policy, whether it's consistent with the Act. Yeah, later on we found out that within the Act there are provisions that are very discriminatory, that leaves out certain students, which will go in details which are those provisions. So what we did is for us to go around the country, for us to engage different students at different campuses in VTCs and the institution of higher learning in the country. Yeah, so this recommendation that we received and complaints that we received from students is the one that we gave to NSFAF, so that we and also a copy to the Minister of Higher Education to say that these are provisions that we think they are not consistent with the policy and they need to be amended so that we have a policy that is inclusive, that every Namibian child can be able to access higher education.
Yeah, wonderful. It's a good summary. So what are those inconsistencies that you want to tackle? What does the Act say and what is the policy saying?
Yes, Toivo, if you read the NSFAF Act, you realize that in the Act, the mandate of NSFAF is to provide financial assistance to all students. You know, the rationale is that it does not discriminate which student, so long you meet the criteria. It doesn't say whether you are poor, whether you are studying from a private institution or a public institution. The act is just, the intention of the act was to provide financial assistance to all students that meet the requirements. Now, currently what we have in the current policy is that we have provisions such as, if you look at the payment of non-tuition fees, how it was before we launched the initiative, that NSFAF was only funding students that are studying at institutions of higher learning such as IUM, UNAM, and NAST, only 3 institutions. The other institutions which are approved also by the Minister of Higher Education, the student out there, they qualify in terms of the points that are set out by NSFAF, they are only funded tuition fees. Until this year, when we've been fighting, that's when the minister, I think you have seen the report that they have said that no, they acknowledge that was a policy that was not consistent, so they had to make a decision that these students that were left out will be given non-tuition fees of 10,000 compared to the others that are being given 17,000. So there are also policies such as, if you look at inside, you see that the funding of mature age entry. If you go in the policy saying that NSFAF can only fund students that are through mature age entry for students that are studying at institutions of private institutions, public institutions. And all private institutions, they are not funded through that provisions. Now, to us, that is discriminatory. Why? It's because it separates between students based on the institution they are from. But all of them, if you look at them, they are studying the courses that are on the same level, and they are accredited by the NQA and also approved by Institution of Higher Learning. But very important, look, we are challenging the concept of where the current policy is based on the idea that they can only fund students that are from poor backgrounds. So because of that rationale, they've put a provision that they can only fund students whose parental combined income is not above 500,000. So if your parents combining your income is above 500, then it means that will not be funded. So we are questioning to say, was that the intention of the act? Did it want to say that they can only fund for students that whose parents are poor? Because if you look at other provisions of the act, like the Child Protection Act, which provides for the orphanage grants, it's very clear. It states that the grant is only for those people that whose parents have passed away. The policy, the act and the law is very straightforward. But in this case, the act of NSFAF, the intention was to provide any student, financial assistance to any student that qualifies. So we feel like those students, if you have seen reports, I think through the media, we have said that if you look at IUM, UNAM, and NAST, there are students that are owing millions of dollars. So as a student union, we have to ask yourself, if students are funded by NSFAF, who are those students that are owing those millions of dollars? Through our research and the survey that we've made, we found out that the students that are owing those millions of dollars are those students that are presumed that the parents are rich. So, and then we have taken time to make research to say that even those ones that are presumed that the parents get more than 500,000, in reality, those students, they are actually the ones who are not even able to finish school because their parents are unable to pay for both tuition fees and also to pay for accommodation, transport, and food. That's why we are proposing to say, to start with, everyone deserves the right to get funded. Of course, we do understand the rationale to say that not everyone might need the same help from government. But does it make sense to say that a student whose parents are below 500,000 gets funded tuition fees and non-tuition fees, and a student that is above 500,000 is not even funded tuition fees and is not even funded non-tuition fees? Can we not make it to say those ones that gets above 500,000, they are able maybe to be funded tuition fees only or either non-tuition fee only? So those are provisions that we looked at.
Okay. No, I was going to ask you a question, but now at least you partially answered it to say maybe that those that are perceived to be from well-to-do families should get funded, but perhaps not to the same extent as others who do not come from a well-off families. Because what I was going to ask you is to say that what if NASA, your student union, find through its own sources and connections that, and I'm just using an example, that a child of Minister Kanji Morangi has secured a loan, a student loan from NSFAF, while a guy from Sikarosompo there in Kavango West, coming from a very poor family and just sent by his grandmother to come to UNAM, does not have funding, whether you would not find that to be problematic, given that at least the minister has so much money.
Yeah. No, we'll find that is problematic, but, you know, we need to look at the what does the Act says.
Yeah.
Does it say that the daughter of the Prime Minister should not get funded? If you look at the policy, you know, the Act says student that qualifies should be funded. It doesn't say we should be from rich family. But of course, we understand where the reasoning is coming, that because of limited resources, we need to prioritize. But look, not every rich person that have a child takes care of that child. That is it's a fact that is out there. We have seen situations, you know, when NSFAF looks at your parental income, they don't look at the net salary. They look at the gross salary. Yeah. Then we have situation in Namibia where many parents are in debts. Where is the interest of the child? Because for us, it's about the interest of the child. You find the parent have messed up, but that child is unable to access higher education.
Or maybe it's these deadbeat fathers who...
Yes.
I mean, child neglect is also a big issue in Namibia. Maybe your father earns this much, but he doesn't have any relationship with you as a son also. Yes.
So that's why the people that have made the act, they're very clear to say that there's a difference between you having a child and actually even taking care of that child. So they're very smart to say that they must not tie the future of a child to the parents. So because why? Because education, in terms of the Namibian Constitution, Article 20, is a right that every Namibian child, regardless who your father is, you must be, or where your mother is, you must be able to access education. And sometimes there are also issues of social issues, such as there are some students who do not have a good relationship with their parents. So, but they are rejected because in order for you to get funded, you need to provide the financial assistance. So those are things that we look at, and some of the parents don't even provide their pay slips in order for this student to apply. So that's why we are saying that to extend how a student whose parents do not have a salary, and that one that have at least something, how the NSFAF should support it should differ. But we do not agree that, look, my parent, maybe my combined income is 499,000. I get funded both tuition fees and non-tuition fees, which means that they fund for me for my education, and they also fund for me for transport, food, and accommodation. But a student whose combined income for a parent whose is 501,000, a difference of $1, that person is not even given, not even tuition fees to their school, and that person is not even supported, not even for accommodation. So we at least we can now say, okay, fine, let us come up with a situation where these students, maybe the other person can get full funded, and the other person can be assisted in terms of tuition fees, or maybe non-tuition fees only.
Absolutely. We go for a very short break and return with Paulus Vihemba. The conversation continues on the evening review with NASA President Paulus Vihemba. Let's talk about debt recovery. That will be also very topical at the NSFAF workshop. Do you have any position on that issue as an association?
Yes, when it comes to debt recovery, this is an issue of the Act. You know, the Act already recognizes that students should be able to pay back. It's not an issue of a policy. In order for us to advocate to even stop NSFAF not request for students to pay back the money, we mean that we need to amend the Act. It is within. But whether we do agree or not, we don't agree to a certain extent.
With what? With paying or not paying?
Yes, of paying. Our position as a union is that to balance everything, because we also understand that the sustainability of NSFAF is very important. But how we are saying that under the current economic and the resources that we have, is it the right time for students to start paying back the money? Does our economy cannot be able to sustain the financial assistance that students paying back the money? Through our research, we found out that indeed the resources that we have can be able to allow students to be funded and not pay back the money. Look at this, Toivo. We are talking about 22,000 students that are being funded, or maybe 30,000 students that are being funded. You find out that these students, majority of them, they are from parents where maybe they are the only ones that are working. And in Namibia, for you to start working, you need to even have a house, you need to own. And you have to and you need to make sure that you start rectifying the poverty at home. It becomes very difficult because the population itself already, it's in absolute poverty. Yeah, but what we are saying now is that, do you now pay tuition fees and non-tuition fees at this time? We are saying that maybe if we are talking about the issue of paying back the money, what if we move step by step? Maybe, because students are given tuition fees and non-tuition fees. So you can start by only paying for non-tuition fees or maybe tuition fees, and then the other ones, it's reduced, the government pays for you. Because the NSFAF is funded by taxpayers, and the majority of people that are paying much is also one that are working. And these are students that are being funded.
Yeah. There's been a lot of propositions around paying back this money. The late President Hage Geingob, some years ago, publicly said that he wanted NSFAF to be, those loans to be turned into grants. He never really followed up on that. He just made it a comment off the cuff, which was a bit disappointing, because he had all the powers to actually do that. Because his argument was that students, before you graduate, you are already in debt. So instead of really starting your life from a clean slate and then accumulate debt, but as you acquire assets and whatnot, you have no single asset in your life, but you're already owing so much money. Do you think, therefore, that might be amending the Act? Because you made a good point also to say, look, the Act says that, and if you don't do that, you're actually violating the provisions of that Act by not paying back. So do you think, for example, that you could propose to NSFAF, the leadership, and say, look, can you propose to Parliament to amend the Act so that these things are turned into a grant, for example?
Yes. That actually is what we are actually advocating for. That students' tuition fees, loans should be turned into grants. I think you have pointed out very clearly. Even under the current circumstances, under the same Act, even though it's there that NSFAF can require students to pay back the money, but the way it's written is not like it's a must. It's on the choice of both the Minister of Higher Education and also the state to determine. I think in 2017, when the late President Hagengop said that student tuition fees must be turned into grants, he knew that our economy could sustain that. It's the right thing to do because look, even now when the situation is very worse, I study education. For example, I graduated with my degree, and I don't get a job. I can't sit at home. I continue studying for a master. I get funded. The money increased from 168. Maybe after when I'm done with my master, it goes to 200,000. And then I look for a job. I don't get a job. You know what the situation in the country. I continue studying. By the time I get a job, I already own about 300,000. You know, it becomes very difficult. But our economy itself, we have oil being discovered. Hydrogen is also is being discovered now. We have the diamond that could be able to, the fishing quota that could be able to cater for this very small population in Namibia. So we'll continue advocating for that. And I think even if you look at even the number of people that are paying that money, it's very low. Mm-hmm. That already explains to you that things are becoming hard. Yeah. Yeah. If people had the resources, they will pay back the money without any hesitation. But the fact that people, they are already in financial problem, that's why people are not paying. Mm. Yes.
So, if you have to summarize what you want out of this workshop, you go there with your points, you go there with your demands. What are the things that, how do you want that meeting to end?
Yes, we want that meeting to end in a situation where we have a policy that is very inclusive, that takes the needs of every student into consideration. We want to see a policy where students are not divided based on institution where they study, whether they are from private, whether they are from UNAM, or whether your parent is rich or poor. Every student must have a stake on how they should be able to benefit from that financial institution. Of course, as I've already stated, how they benefit differs depending on the circumstances. Toivo, you should understand that the reason why students, why they are going to private institutions, majority of them not because that they don't want to go to institutions of higher learning, which are public. It's because our government have failed to build enough universities to accommodate every grade 12 learner that is graduating. So students, they are forced they are left with no choice but to go to private institutions such as IUM. Now, if we come up now with a policy which says that because you're studying at IUM, you're not given a loan, then we are not being fair to students, because in the first place, the reason why they're at IUM or even at Tramfet is because the space that is created by government is not enough to accommodate everyone. So that's why we want to see an inclusive funding that funds for everyone, depending, so long they just meet those specific requirements.
Yeah. So, what can you tell us about yourself in conclusion? You studied education? Did you graduate, or you still? Did you do?
I started education. I graduated, and then I'm now in third year doing a law degree at University of Namibia.
Doing a law degree.
Yes.
Why did you change careers?
It's because when I graduated, the situation in education, you first sit at home. So I thought that it was wise for me, not for me to sit at home, but already to immediately register for a law degree. But then also, it's the same thing also, you must understand. In 2018, when I was admitted to University of Namibia, I was first admitted in law. But that time, you remember there was a policy in 2018, they say that in order for you to be admitted in law, you must be able to pay, not only in law, but at the University of Namibia, you must be paid 2,000 and also 50% of the cost. So, poor children a not well-off family like me, who could not be able to pay 13,000 to register. So in that time, NSFAF was not as effective as now. So I had to come back to Rundu and register for education. So, but I've always wanted to study for law. So after when I immediately registered for law. So that's why we don't want other young people to not access higher education.
Yeah.
Because your parents cannot afford to pay the institution of higher learning. I think that's why NSFAF was created, that wherever your background is, you should be able to access higher education.
So are you going to represent, when you graduate in law, you're going to represent teachers who are beating children, this corporal punishment thing?
Yeah, we'll depending, because that is now have to do with human rights.
Yeah.
You know, I think the Constitution is very clear that no person, not even a child, no person should be inflict any pain on any person. But you know what is very worrisome when you go to our schools, the disciplines of learners is
also non-existent.
Yeah, it is out of hand. If you look at even the grade 12 results, you know, I see even the Minister of Education, they are celebrating that this year have done well, maybe 23% pass rate in grade 11 or 12.
Yeah.
But if you go in other countries, just here in South Africa, you find out that for them this year, last year they got 83% in terms of the pass rate. So we still have a long way to go. And the reason why learners are not passing, other than the resources, is also the discipline.
Yeah, no, thank you, Paulus. I needed just to end on a lighter note. But all the best for your workshop at NSFAF. All the best with your studies, and we hope to see you again soon.
No, thank you very much.
Wonderful. That is NASA President Paulus Vihemba talking to us about reforms that they anticipate in the Namibia Student Financial Assistance Fund, NSFAF as we call it, which is trying to see if some of these demands can be accommodated. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.